Good morning, everyone. I'm Bob Douglas, Channel 10 Action News. We begin this broadcast with a late-breaking story now unfolding downtown at Los Angeles Superior Court.
God is in control. God is in control.
Let's go live to our John Stevens to fill us in on what's happening down at the courthouse. John?
In an unprecedented case, professors of modern science have filed a class action lawsuit against none other than the supreme person, God himself. They have charged that if he does not appear in this courtroom today, he will be cited with non-existence.
Now, John, I understand that the prosecution has won an action barring the public from attending this trial.
Right, Bob. Hold on, I've just gotten word that the prosecutors are about to leave the courtroom.
Come on, let's go. What's happening to you people?
Stand back. 60 seconds. How much money are you going to pay?
Excuse me, has the lawsuit against God been dropped?
Why are you leaving the courtroom before the trial's begun?
Why are you suing God?
Now hold on. The charges against the defendant have not been dropped.
Then why are you leaving? We've been in the courtroom for over 3 hours now, patiently waiting for the defendant, God, to appear.
Forgive my frankness, but this whole trial seems to be a little bit frivolous. I mean, suing God. Yet I take this you are serious?
Absolutely. Our firm has sent out over, what is it now?
130 subpoenas.
130 subpoenas to leaders of various religious organizations demanding that they bring this mysterious supreme person to the judicial arena.
What's
Why
happening
did
to
you
you?
ban the public from entering the courtroom?
Because given the nature of this trial, we have strong reason to fear a severe backlash from the religious sector.
Just what is your motive for demanding that God show up here? Isn't it obvious that he's not coming?
It's painfully obvious.
How is it possible to sue the Creator? Who is going to represent him in court? St. Peter?
Now, can you tell us who's bankrolling this? Who's the corporation behind this?
Don't you
case?
think we wasted a lot of time on this case? Can you just give us an idea of who might be behind
Find out from some of the people here.
Pay for this.
Lydia, could you tell our viewers here a little bit about your agenda?
Professor Pirelli,
After this case, we'll be moving on to the Supreme Court with a petition to have the phrase, "In God We Trust," removed from all U.S. currency.
I mean, in a case as significant as this, shouldn't majority rule?
you must remember, in spite of your majority rule, that we did persuade the Supreme Court to banish prayer in public schools.
That you did. And there was a reason.
Therefore, if today's litigations are successful, we will have generated enough support to take this case all the way to the Supreme Court.
Celebrating here today. Can we ask just who's behind the corporation giving you the money? Does anybody have Sir, could you tell us?
Will this here? Well, everybody just calm down.
But the trial isn't officially over. What happens if God actually does appear after you leave?
Not to worry. We still have Victor Candle, our senior colleague, in the courtroom.
Along with 2 witnesses.
But what about the other people who are involved in this case?
Can you believe the media just gave us over $1 million in free publicity?
Well, Jason, that's why they call it the free press.
All rise. The Honorable Judge Francis Weiler presiding. You may be seated.
Will the court come to order? I know that the general public has not been invited to this trial, but where, may I ask, is the defendant and his counsel?
Your Honor, prosecution asks that you grant a judgment by default and that this trial be adjourned with unanimous verdict of guilty. God, guilty of non-existence.
Very well. Since no evidence to the contrary be given at this time, my judgment is in favor of the prosecution.
Wait!
Step forward. And who are you?
I am defense counsel for God.
I thought you said this was going to be an open and shut case.
Relax. Look, be a piece of cake.
Counsel for the defense, must I remind you that your client, the Supreme Being, is not present before us? I find it hardly plausible that you can defend someone who apparently does not exist.
Your Honor, how does one defend the existence of air solely on the principle of seeing? Air is everywhere, is it not? But you can't see it, or smell it, or taste it.
Objection, Your Honor. He's obviously evading the real issue. Now, can he produce God or merely hot air?
Objection sustained. Is the defense prepared to defend the existence of God in this court of law?
Yes, I am.
Dr. Desmodus, would you kindly tell the court the events that led to the creation of the universe? Events that are substantiated by scientific tests and research.
In the beginning, all matter within the universe was concentrated into a single point at an extremely high temperature. It then exploded from an expanded, superheated cloud of subatomic particles. Atoms gradually formed, then planets, galaxies, stars, and finally life.
Your witnesses. Now, Doctor, in your opening statement, you said that all matter within the universe was concentrated to a single point at a high temperature and then exploded. And from that explosion came stars, galaxies, and life. These are your words, are they not?
That is correct.
Science claims that all life arose from chemicals, by accident, by chance, with no supreme intelligence behind it whatsoever?
That is correct.
Formerly, life came from chemicals, but now life comes from living beings. Is that it?
These living beings that you speak of are nothing more than a combination of chemicals.
Well, then tell me this. If life arose from chemicals, and we are simply matter, could you demonstrate before this court how life arose from chemicals?
You want me to create something?
Yes, that's your theory. Life comes from chemicals. Prove it. Create something, anything. An ant, a leaf, or even one grain of rice. But you can't, can you?
Can you create life now, in the present?
Well, we're on the verge of many breakthroughs.
No promises of the future, Professor. Answer the question. Can you create life now?
No.
Then how can you be so certain that life came from chemicals? Isn't it true, Professor, that atheistic scientists are cleverly misleading the innocent public with these false theories?
No.
And isn't it true that by claiming you will one day create life, science is in effect trying to take the position of God?
That's a lie.
And isn't that what this trial is really all about?
No!
Objection! The defense is badgering the witness.
Objection sustained. You may step down.
Might I remind the defense that science is not on trial here today, but God is. Now, where is God?
Perhaps my next witness can answer that question. Your Honor, I would like to call to the stand the President of the United States.
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Prosecution requests permission to approach the bench.
Granted.
Your Honor, we all know that it's virtually impossible for the President to personally appear at these proceedings.
Why is that, Counselor?
Well, he's far too important to appear on your orders, that's why.
I see. But I asked him to come, therefore I must conclude that he doesn't exist.
The President does exist.
Well, you, sir, demanded that God himself appear in this courtroom or face charges of non-existence. Since when does the President get better treatment than God?
Your Honor, this has gone far enough.
Frankly, I find all this rather fascinating.
But, Your Honor,
Proceed.
Pushing this "in God we trust" thing through the federal is still a long shot. So we banned the public from a little courthouse in LA. But what happens when attorneys representing 150 million enraged Americans show up at the appellate courts to battle this out?
He's right. This is not going to be a slam dunk.
Talk to me, Simon.
Don't tell me you haven't heard. Right after you left the courthouse, this guy comes busting into the courtroom from out of nowhere, wearing robes. He's got Victor up against the wall. It's unbelievable. No one knows who he is, where he came from, who sent him. I'll tell you who it is. It's those Bible-thumping whack jobs. They're the ones who put him up to this.
Slow down. I can't understand what you're saying.
Slow down. Wake up and smell the reality, folks. We're in trouble here. We got Rubin going on the air in 1 hour. Jeffrey Rubin, come on, Jeffrey Rubin, the constitutional attorney. The one who's going to represent our case on national television. Hello? Oh, but now with this monk in the equation, it could really destroy us. Lydia, please, just get Channel 10 on the tube. Yes, you heard me, Channel 10. Please, get Channel 10!
Your Honor, I would like to enter into evidence Exhibit A. No need for alarm, it's only a stage prop. Though I must admit I have difficulty convincing the guard at the door.
I will allow it into evidence, hesitantly, I might add.
My question is this. Why did everyone react with such apprehension in the courtroom when they saw this? Is it not because we all know what dynamite does? But, according to our learned scientists here, explosions create a logic and reason, a well-planned, self-sufficient universe. Ladies and gentlemen, to assume that an explosion created this universe would be like saying these books here were created by an explosion in the printing shop. Besides, the Big Bang Theory leaves one major question unanswered. In order for an explosion to occur, something must explode. Where did that come from? Where? Just who is this person? Believe it or not, but these theories are taught in every college and major university in the world. And up till now, no one is questioning. No one.
How dare you stand there and attack the very academic institutions of science? The theories taught in these universities form the very root of our technological heritage. The audacity of such a challenge. Now show us God.
Welcome to this special presentation of God on Trial. I'm joined here in the studio by my special panel of guests, Mr. Stuart McIlvaine, author of the best-selling book, Democracy, An American Reality, Dr. Barbara Areno of MIT's Genetics Research Laboratory, and constitutional attorney Jeffrey Rubin. Thanks to all of you for joining us. Professor Areno, I'd like to begin with you. As a witness for the prosecution in this trial, how do you think it's unfolding?
Well, it's going exactly how it expected. Despite the desperate techniques of the so-called defense attorney, the fact still remains that God has not shown himself, nor will he ever show himself.
Mr. McIlvaine, how do you respond to that?
Granted, the defense may not have produced God yet, but I think he has raised some very legitimate doubts concerning the entire foundation of modern science.
Barbara, these allegations are hardly a laughing matter.
Let me ask Stuart this. Other than for dramatic purposes, what did brandishing fake explosives in the courtroom do for the defense?
I thought it was a fabulous stunt. I mean, what better way to expose the Big Bang Theory for what it really is? Contrived drivel perpetrated by a host of Darwinian Neanderthals.
That theory is based on certain irrefutable facts.
Irrefutable facts. Well, if it's fact, then why is it called the Big Bang Theory? I mean, theory means speculation, and speculative possibilities.
Referring any kind of... to science as speculative?
In this case,
Stuart?
yes. Speculative possibilities without scientific confirmation is not actual science, Barbara, and you of all people should know that.
And speculation about a God without scientific confirmation is nothing more than...
Okay, now, everyone, let's try to calm down here.
My question is this. What's the difference between a living body and a dead body?
Well, technically, the heart would cease beating in the dead body, and the brain would stop functioning.
The main difference is that there is no consciousness in the dead body, which is the exact reason why the heart, brain, and motor functions would cease. So this consciousness, which gives the body the appearance of life, is actually the symptom of spirit, and the Supreme Spirit is God.
When asked to show us your client, you cleverly sidestep the issue with your God is spirit routine because you know that in a court of law, it is impossible to prove that spirit exists. Now, isn't that the real truth, counselor? Well, isn't it?
With me today, we're very fortunate to have Richard Barrington, a Superior Court judge. And Your Honor, I'd like to ask you, what is your take on this whole situation? The defense and prosecution attorneys seem to be ignoring the judge, yelling at each other, very bizarre behavior. Is this a normal type of behavior in a courtroom?
Well, no, not really, but I believe the judge has deliberately broken with tradition and allowed this unorthodox style to emerge.
This seems to be more along the lines of a forum, Your Honor.
Well, exactly.
Do you sense that Judge Weiler is doing this because she feels this trial has no special significance except perhaps for entertainment purposes?
On the contrary, if the prosecutor can prove that life arose by chance, then that would spell a death sentence for God, and that would be quite significant. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I would, Your Honor. Thank you very much for being with us here today. John Stevens for Action News Channel 10 reporting at Superior Court.
How about we focus our attention on the more sensitive issue of "In God We Trust" and removing that from all U.S. currency?
"In God We Trust" was not made the official motto of the United States until 1956. And it didn't appear on paper money until 1957.
And suddenly that becomes a reason to abolish any reference from God, from our currency, or when we salute the flag? Because why? We got along fine without it before 1955?
Mr. Rubin, why does the government even allow this phrase at all? You're a constitutional attorney. This is ostensibly a clear violation of the separation of church and state spelled out in the Constitution.
It doesn't matter which one of you is right. What matters is that public opinion is changing, and for better or for worse, the pendulum has started to swing in the opposite direction, away from God.
What logical purpose do these phrases serve? Not everybody is a Bible-thumping American.
Because this is, or it once was, a government of the people, by the people, and for the people.
And now the people want to change.
Some of the people want to change. Let's not distort the facts here, Barbara. Some of the American people may want to change.
Okay, I'm sorry, everyone, but that's all the time we have. I want to thank my panel of guests for joining us for this enlightening discussion of God on Trial. Thank you for joining us as well. I'm Channel 10's Bob Douglas. Have a good evening, everyone.
And we're clear.
Are you kidding me? Do you honestly believe the federal courts will be convinced to push this "In God We Trust" thing through?
What do you mean?
Well, it's just so controversial. And this trial is attracting a lot of attention.
Well, I mean, they can't keep shooting my clients down forever. And besides, you're forgetting one thing.
What's that?
Despite the popularity, God is still on trial, and he's a no-show.
Your Honor, I would like to enter into evidence Exhibit B, the Bhagavad Gita, spoken by Lord Sri Krishna over 5,000 years ago.
Your Honor, this book, the Bhagavad Gita, is nothing more than a compilation of ancient superstitions written by a race of deranged aborigines.
Deranged aborigines? How dare you, sir?
Yes, aborigines. This book is totally out of line. I will not allow this into evidence. I will not allow you to make this.
I'll not have another display of such ill temperament in my courtroom.
My apologies. Sorry, Your Honor.
Now, I'm sure this question has arisen for some of our viewers. Just what is this book that has caused so much disturbance in the courtroom? To help us unravel that mystery today, Professor of Comparative Religions Mark Edwards is with us to help answer that question. Exactly what is the Bhagavad Gita?
Well, the Bhagavad Gita is a song of God that was spoken by Lord Krishna to his devotee Arjuna 5,000 years ago on the battlefield of Kurukshetra in India.
All right then, but why Krishna? Why not the Christian God, Jehovah, or Yahweh?
Actually, God is known by millions of names. For instance, he is called Jehovah because he is the supreme judge. He is known as Allah because he's the greatest, Elohim because he's the supreme one, and he's also known as Krishna because he is supremely attractive.
Professor, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you very much. I see our cameras are now rolling again in the courthouse. This is John Stevens for Channel 10 Action News.
Your Honor, scientists like to discredit the Bhagavad Gita as the writing of deranged aborigines. Why did great men such as Kant and Hegel and Thoreau and Schopenhauer and Ralph Waldo Emerson, Albert Schweitzer, Benjamin Franklin, Albert Einstein himself study the Vedas if they were the writings of some deranged aborigines?
Prosecution tires of reiterating to the defense, show us God.
Members of the jury, the prosecution has demanded to see God. Based on this challenge, I would like to call to the stand the prosecution himself.
Objection, Your Honor. This is unheard of. It's preposterous.
The prosecution may decline if he so chooses.
No, we accept.
The defense hasn't a case. We know he's merely bluffing.
I would like to request darkness in the courtroom.
Defense counsel, is there some judicial purpose to this little escapade?
I intend to show the relevance, Your Honor.
Objection.
Objection overruled.
Prosecutor, can you see me now?
Forgive me if I don't answer your ridiculous question.
It's a rather simple question. Can you see me?
Your Honor, I don't see...
Answer the question.
No, I don't see you.
Can you see the judge? Or the jury? Or for that matter, can you even see yourself?
No, I cannot.
Thank you. That will be all.
You may step down.
This little experiment proves that the very eyes which one demands to see God with are at best imperfect. We can't see the thing closest to our eyes, our eyelids. We can't view the stars in the daytime, though we know they exist. Can we see an atom or gravity? They exist. If there is a supreme being, he must exist in a dimension beyond the material time and space that he generates and controls. Therefore, when we say, "Show me God," we ask, what is our power of seeing with these imperfect senses?
Your Honor, I have no questions.
Your Honor, the defense rests.
Very well then. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have heard all the arguments as put forth by the prosecution and the defense. Now, it is up to each and every one of you to come to a verdict in this matter. Science versus God. We are awaiting your decision. Court is adjourned.
Well, Bob, in light of what's happened here today, one thing remains certain. In God We Trust is still safe and sound on the back of this $10 bill. The question remains, for how long? Back to you in the studio, Bob.
And we're clear. Oh, this has been one very unusual day.
I'll say, it'd be something to tell my grandkids about. What was your take on this whole deal?
Well, other than some, audio quirks and some bad lighting in the courtroom,
Oh, yeah.
I think we're fairly well.
Well, I meant about God.
Oh, God. Okay. Oh, like, is there a God?
Yeah.
It's possible. What do you think?
I don't know. I just don't know.
Hey, some of the gang's gonna go, get some pizza. Wanna come join us? Clear out the cobwebs?
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Just give me a second here. I'll be
Okay.
right with you.
All right.
If life arose from chemicals and we are simply matter, could you demonstrate before this court how life arose from chemicals?
You want me to create something
Yes,
here?
yes, that's your theory. Life comes from chemicals. Prove it. Create something, anything. An ant, a leaf, or even one grain of rice.